Welcome to Survivor Stories Saturdays on N.O.W TV. This is where survivors share their truth, raw, unfiltered, and real. Every story you hear is more than memory. It's a lesson, a warning, and a beacon of hope for those still finding their way out of the fog. The mission of the Now movement is simple: to break the silence, to expose the red flags, and to remind every survivor that healing is not only possible, it's powerful. Because when one of us speaks, others find the courage to step into freedom. This is Survivor Stories Saturdays. Stay powerful. Jamie Hughes is a passionate advocate for mental well-being and the author of insightful works on resilience and self-care. Drawing from a master's degree in psychology with a specialization in trauma, resilience, and self-care, Jamie brings a wealth of academic knowledge and practical experience to his coaching and writing. His expertise is further solidified by years of dedicated service in nonprofit program development and management, where he honed his skills in victim advocacy as well as social and forensic psychology. Jamie's commitment to empowering individuals to navigate life's challenges shines through in his work, offering people a blend of compassionate guidance and evidence-based strategies for cultivating inner strength.
Hi, I'm Jamie Hughes, social psychologist, author, and trauma recovery coach. I received my bachelor's degree in psychology and then received my master's degree in psychology with an emphasis on trauma, resilience, and self-care. I've written 4 books all about various mental health issues and also a journal to help with self-awareness. And I work with people to help them overcome obstacles in their lives related to past trauma. Could be childhood trauma, could be something that happened in adulthood. Many would be surprised, I think, to know that there are still times today I struggle myself with some of the very issues that I help others with, some of the issues that I've written about. And this kind of goes back to my own childhood, how I got to be where I am today, and why it matters to me. It matters to me because I've been there, I've been through it, I've seen it, I've done it, I've almost died from it, and I know what it feels like. That's why I wanted to go into psychology, was to figure out my own problems, but also to try to find ways to help others that are struggling. And that's why it's meaningful. My journey kind of started as a child, very young child. My parents were divorced when I was about a year old. It was a nasty divorce from what I hear. I also know this because there were no pictures in the house. There were no names. Matter of fact, I didn't even know I had a father growing up as a young child. Never saw him, never heard from him, nothing. So my mom and I lived together. She was a single mom. She went to school in the evenings, worked during the day, and we lived together. And when I was about 8 years old, she started having some health problems. She'd been to the doctor a few times and eventually ended up in the hospital to be treated. My grandmother came to stay with me while she was there. And one Saturday morning, while I was sitting on the corner of my bed in my bedroom watching Saturday morning cartoons, as was my favorite thing to do, one of my favorite things to do, my grandmother came in and sat beside me and put her arms around me and said, "She's not coming back." So my mom's hospital visit, while intended to solve the problem, did not. She passed away when I was 8 years old. My grandparents tried to get custody of me, and the family courts decided that if my father was alive, then I should go live with him because that would be the best thing for a young boy, to go live with someone he'd never even seen or heard of, never even met. So I went to live in a new home, a new family, a new town, a new school. By this time I was just turned 9 years old. From day one until the rest of my life, it was very clearly communicated that I was unwanted, that I was not part of the family, that I was an intrusion, and that I was somehow the target, somehow the manifestation of the things that my dad didn't like about himself or his life. And so the way I was treated growing up was fairly harsh. A lot of psychological and emotional abuse. I remember not long after moving in with my new family, because he had remarried, had another son also. Not long after that, so I had just turned 9, there was an evening where I was missing my mom. So this had been about 3 months since she had died, and I started to cry, and my stepmother wanted to hug me, give me some comfort as a 9-year-old little boy crying for his mom that he had just lost. And my dad scolded her and said, "Don't do that. He's got to learn to be a man, to not cry. You can't be a baby forever." I never, ever had the chance to properly grieve. It wasn't allowed. I had to stuff that in. It couldn't be shown. I developed depressive symptoms. I started having major depressive issues between sadness, numbness, just periods of sometimes weeks or even months where I was just lethargic. It interfered with my clarity of thought, my creativity. I was a pretty good artist as a child, so I loved to draw and paint, and I would kind of go through spurts to where I would do it for a while, and then the depression would kick in, and then I would stop. Every time I would draw something, and if it was celebrated at school or by friends, it was downplayed at home. I was told it was a waste of time, that I needed to not have foolish dreams and aspirations, that I was to be nobody but a factory worker one day, which was definitely projection from my dad's point of view. I learned many years later that he himself, his mother had been very verbally and emotionally abusive to him as a child, and that he was even made to drop out of school in the 9th grade to go work in a factory. So he had a hard life himself, and that was coming out on me growing up. By the time I was 18, I'd already been through many, many years of undiagnosed and untreated mental illness, grief, and abuse, and I had a suicide attempt. I had just graduated high school, and my dad told me that by the time I turned 18, which was just in about a week at that time, that I had to get out. I did not have a place to live anymore. So everything just piled up, and I'd had enough. Couldn't take anymore. Didn't want to be there anymore. Didn't want to live that life anymore. And so I tried to end my life. Fortunately, that was the first time I actually got to speak with anyone, any kind of therapist or doctor, about my mental health issues. So I'd been struggling with them alone, in silence, for 9 years at that point. I stayed in a mental health hospital for a month, got treatment there, which was great. Helped me kind of sort of I don't want to say get balanced by any means, but at least it kind of took me off the edge of the cliff. I wasn't really ready emotionally. I wasn't mature enough to seek regular help at that time. So I kind of went about my life, lived kind of just day by day for several more years until probably about my early 20s. I reached another low point in my life where I had lost my job, was about to lose my apartment that I had at the time, and I reached back out to my grandparents, my mom's parents, and they invited me in. I got to eat regularly. Actually got to eat 3 meals a day. That's the first time probably in a couple of years since I had done that. My grandfather helped me get a car, get a job, and I kind of got physically stable, which led me to be more emotionally stable. And that's when I started being intentional about my mental health treatment. I ended up going to the doctor, going to the therapist, and something just sparked in me that I wanted to know more. I didn't want to live with that same stuff every day for years and years anymore. So I started school studying psychology. One of my first lessons, I guess, in going into psychology was that I definitely wanted to help people. The more I learned, the more I wanted to share. And so I thought, okay, I'll be a therapist and I'll work with teenage boys that are in the system. You know, juvie, foster care, those parents in prison, things like that. In other words, what I had been, in a sense, that at least in that same arena. I did an internship at a local, excuse me, I did an internship at a local boys' home, and the 3 months I learned that I could not do that. That was not the right role for me and definitely not the right time. I would go home the nights that I was there, I would go home and cry. It was just way too much emotionally. For one, I was very empathetic, so I kind of absorbed other people's emotions. And two, I just wasn't healed enough. It was not the right timing for me, even if that would have been the right role, which it wasn't. I ended up going into nonprofit work, into program development and management, building volunteer recruiting and training and management programs for local children's hospitals, and then eventually ended up working for a domestic violence and sexual assault center, building educational programs, training programs, over volunteer programs again. So I kind of, through my failure, which failure is not the end, failure is just redirecting. It often, sometimes, especially if you're struggling with a mental illness or trauma recovery or abuse, you know, your brain has learned that failure is like catastrophic and it's something personal, and it's not. It's just a redirection. It's, if the stories are true, if the myth is true about Edison creating the light bulb, you know, the story goes he found 99 ways not for it to work, not to create the light bulb, until he found the one that did, and now we're all the better for it. That's how failure works. It just redirects you. And it did me, and for good reason. Over the years, I kept healing, kept going to therapy, kept working on myself. One of the most important things I think I've ever learned in my own personal journey and in working with other people throughout the years in their healing and growth is that you have to become a student of yourself. You can go to the doctor and get on medication, which is very important. It's an important piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle. You can go to therapy and learn how to acknowledge and discuss previous trauma, previous hurts, grief, mental illness, those things. And that's a very important piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle. There's still so many more aspects to growth and healing that, unfortunately, our systems are not built to teach us. You have to become a student of yourself. I learned journaling. I picked that up, fell in love with it. It fed my creative side, for one, but it also gave me an outlet to explore and learn from my own thoughts and feelings in ways and at times that I couldn't do with a therapist, and that I often felt like I couldn't do with anybody else either, which was great, which was something that was super, super, super beneficial. It had such a great impact. I ended up going and getting a certification in teaching therapeutic writing. That's how much of an impact it had on me. So take that to heart. If you can learn to journal, do it. Another important aspect of growth and healing that I learned over the years that has become one of my favorite subjects now that I've gotten advanced education and advanced experience is holistic healing. In other words, exercise and diet. We are just now kind of scratching the surface scientifically of how important diet and exercise is to your mental health. It's so important that we've learned that your gut, so your digestive system from your stomach through your intestines, actually produces the chemicals that go to your brain to regulate happiness. Dopamine and serotonin. More is produced in your gut than is your brain. So if you have a dysfunctional digestive system, your gut microbiome, you're almost guaranteed to have some kind of emotional problems. Whether it's a full-blown mental health diagnosis or not, you're going to be off on happiness, sadness, anger. So that's become my favorite subject and something I love working with people, and that I constantly work on myself. I know there's always people that will say, you're not alone and don't feel like you're by yourself, and that you got to go through these issues yourself, these struggles yourself. And yet you sit in your room alone, or you're in your house alone, or your car, or your job, and you feel alone. I've been there, done that, and I still feel that sometimes, occasionally. But I can tell you that if I can go through it, if I can get better, if I can go through healing and growth and be at a point to where I enjoy my life, I enjoy helping other people, I enjoy learning and being creative, and I still have regular problems, and sometimes they hit harder than others, but that's a normal life, to be honest. We don't often talk about it, but if I can go through those things after wanting to end my life and thinking about it many times since then, suicidal ideation isn't just a one-time thing. But if I can go through those things and reach a point of healing and growth, so can you. And you will be so happy that you made it. You're worth it. Whoever you are that's listening or watching. You can experience things in life that you've only dreamed of. And your life can be satisfying to you with less and less pain. You can learn to love yourself, not give a rip about what society thinks about you, about what other people, even in your family sometimes, unfortunately, even what they think about you. You're you. And you don't have to be somebody different for everybody else. Your healing and growth will get you to your authentic self. I know it's kind of a catchphrase, but it's true. Who you are meant to be and who you're proud of. Who you're proud of being. I often work with people, as I said earlier, as a trauma recovery coach that have experienced trauma, something like I did, maybe different areas. The loss of parents, the loss of families, the loss of self. When you go through experiences like trauma, it changes you. It changes your viewpoint of yourself. It changes your viewpoint of the rest of the world. And that sticks with you, and it has effects, subconscious effects. It can affect your career. It can affect your physical health. It can affect your mental health, and it can affect your social health. And your social health being how you interact with friends, family, coworkers, and relationships. And that's probably the most common one, is people start recognizing, wait a minute, I'm either stuck in this loop, it's just like Groundhog Day, the movie. I just keep repeating the same thing over and over. And it can't be that all 5 people I've been in a relationship with in the past 2 years or 1 year or 3 years, all of them are just totally wrong. All of them are just total losers and idiots. They might be, I don't know. But if it's the same pattern, it's something in you that's stuck. And we can work on that. We can work on physical health. We can work on mental health. We can work on social health. All those things can be connected to trauma, even if you don't realize it. So if that sounds like something that you want help with, feel free to reach out to me. I have 2 different websites. My coaching site is jamiehughes.online, and my site that has my books listed, and also has a link to my coaching site if you can't remember the other one, but managingmentalhealth.net, and it has the 4 books I have published so far. One on healing anxiety, one on healing adult ADHD, one on healing depression, and one on healing PTSD. As long as the journal, personal journal on there that had over 50 prompts, and gain much more self-awareness, self-depth, self-growth, self-healing. All these things are important, and there are many, many, many resources available, not just mine, but in the world. Take the time, become a student of yourself, learn the areas that you need to work on, and do that. Work on them. Don't quit. Don't take no for an answer. Don't take less than you deserve from the world, the universe, the people in your life, even that negative voice in your head that says you're not worth it and nothing will ever get better. It's wrong. So become a student of yourself, pick those issues, and work on them. You're worth it.
This has been Survivor Stories Saturdays on Now TV. Every voice we share breaks another chain and lights another path forward. If you're ready to take your next step, the N.O.W. Healing Library is free and waiting for you at thechurchofrealtalk.com. Join us next week for another story of survival, strength, and freedom. Until then, stay powerful.